कृष्णव्रता कृष्णमनुस्मरन्तः रात्रौ च कृष्णं पुनरुत्थिताय ते कृष्णदेहा प्रविशन्ति कृष्णम् आज्यं यथा मन्त्रहुतं हुताशे बुद्धिर्बलं यशोधैर्यं निर्भयत्वमरोगता अजाड्यं वाक्पटुत्वं च हनुमत्स्मरणात् भवेत्। विदुर जी के छिलके तुझे भाए, विदुर जी के छिलके तुझे भाए, सुदामा ने पोहे चखाए, सुदामा ने पोहे चखाए, द्रौपदी के शाकान खाए। आके कृष्ण प्रेम ले जाना रे, खाना आ जाना रे, आके मुरली सुना जाना रे, सुख शांति फैला जाना रे, खूब रोई हंसा जाना रे। This is Vidura, this is Uddhava. Where is the time, where is the inclination to read the Bhagavatam? Sometimes you get confused when you start reading the Bhagavatam. There are different speakers, different listeners. Don't get confused. Suta is speaking to Shaunaka. After some time, Shukadeva is speaking and Parikshit is listening. In between, you have Vidura and Uddhava speaking to each other. After a while, Uddhava says, Vidura, please go and listen to Maitreya. Maitreya speaks and Vidura listens. In between, Yudhishthira speaks to Narada. Again, you have Shukadeva speaking to Parikshit. After everything is over, Shukadeva has gone away back to heaven and Parikshit has left the world. You have Suta speaking to Shaunaka. This is the speaker-listener pattern. Shukadeva is now telling us, Master Vidura is going to meet Maitreya. Maitreya is a Brahmin, learned Brahmin. As soon as he meets this Brahmin, he says, you are great, sir. People like you are great. You come into the world to make the godless people come towards God. My father was Professor Radhakrishnan's student. He would ask me, what is the purpose of your speeches? I said, nothing, Appa, except to keep the lamp of faith burning in every listener's heart. That's all. That's the only ambition I have. After listening to my katha, that lamp should be burning brighter. That is all. What do preachers do? Those who have turned their faces away from God, the preacher draws back to God. We are the publicity department. We are the preachers who talk about Him day in and day out. That's why I tell him, I grow hoarse talking about you, Krishna, not my history. I only talk about you. And this is the first shloka I learnt in the Bhagavatam. That is why I am dwelling on it. I was a child of 10 when I came back home and I told my father, I learnt a shloka from the Bhagavatam. Where did you learn? Tikshtarji pronounced it 3 times. And because those days memory is very sharp, I learnt it. Janasya Krishnat Vimukhasya Daivat Adharma Shilasya Sudukhitasya Anugrahaiva Charanti Nunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya. Why are we unhappy? Because we have turned away our faces from the Lord. Srinivasa Govinda Venkataramana Govinda. Moment you come back, you are happy. Bhaktavatsala Govinda Bhagavata Priya Govinda. Preachers are only doing this, bringing you back to God. Bringing you back to God. You feel that your faith is replenished. You come here to charge the battery of your soul. So we are chargers. You understand? First we have to charge ourselves. And only then we can charge you. We are your well-wishers, soul's well-wishers. Soul well-wisher, S-O-L-E, S-O-U-L, both. But Brahmaji is not happy until he creates Shatarupa and Manu. Shatarupa is bhakti of several sorts and Manu is Manana Shakti, Jnana. Jnana and Bhakti are the two who come into the world, the first primordial couple called Manu and Shatarupa. After this, says the Bhagavata, the couple find that the world is sinking into the Maya. They go to Brahmaji and tell him, Swami, Father, the world is sinking into a Maya. What do we do? He says, don't worry, I will meditate. And he meditates. When he meditates, from his nose, which is a Jnanendriya, a small Varaha, a small boar, B-O-A-R, comes into being. It becomes huge and it goes and saves the earth on its nozzle. You've seen Atlas bearing the brunt of the earth with all his sinews standing out. That is not the way Bhuvaraha Swami carries the world as his spouse. Clap for him. The world is his spouse, Bhuvaraha Swami. So beautiful the Varaha is looking at Mother Lakshmi. The world is in the hands of the Lord. Symbolic. Symbolic. If you have property issues, real estate issues, if you want a new house, new villa, mansion, whatever you're building, think of Bhuvaraha Swami and he will fulfill it. After that, there is an encounter between Bhuvaraha and Hiranyaksha, and Hiranyaksha gets killed. The Bhagavata is telling us, how do these asuras come into being? One day, Diti is a woman married to a rishi called Kashyapa. Evening time, this is the time for prayer. When morning and night meet, it's called Sandhya. This is not the time for conjugal love. This is the time for prayer, for yoga, not bhoga. She says, no, my husband, I want physical satisfaction now because passion arouses in me like an elephant crushing a banana tree. He says, no, woman, no. You are married to a rishi. You can't behave like this. You know what is Shastra. This is the time when Lord Shiva is going around the world with his Bhutaganas. Esha ghoratama vela ghoranam ghoradarshana charanti yasyam bhutani bhutesha anucharaniha etasyam sadvi sandhyayam bhagavan bhuta bhavanaha parito bhuta parshadbihi vrishena atati bhutarat. This is not the time for conjugal love, my dear. I will satisfy you later. She says, no, right now. And that is how she disturbs his penance. And she gets physical satisfaction, but then mental dissatisfaction because she has hurt him. She apologizes. He says, it's too late. We'll have two terrible sons, T-O-O and T-W-O, both. They will be Rakshasas, Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyaksha is one whose eye is always on gold. Hiranyakashipu is one who makes a bed of gold and sits on it. This is how people are hoarding for what? One day they die, nothing comes with them. Empty-handed we come, empty-handed we go. So much hoarding of wealth is taking place. That is Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyaksha is one whose eyes are always on gold. Hiranyakashipu will be killed by the Lord in the Prahlada Charitra. Bhagavata says, how did Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu come into being? I have told you earlier that Sanat Kumaras wanted to enter Vaikunta. They were stopped by Jaya and Vijaya. Jaya is mind control, Vijaya is body control. When both these controls fail, they become asuras. They are cursed by Sanat Kumaras to become asuras, and then the Lord apologizes on their behalf. The Bhagavata says that is how the avatars are going to take place, where these asuras are going to be killed by the Lord himself. Krishna has Narayana has great respect for those who are Bhagavatottamas, those who are rishis. He says, I am beholden unto you. Even my wife I neglect, but for you I would cut off my right hand if it abuses you. That is the love he has for great Mahatmas. The next one, the history that you read, is the history of Kardama Rishi. Kardama, this is a lesson for young ladies and young boys. When you get married, sometimes the boy is educated, but he is not well placed in life. Kardama was living in a hut, and Devahuti, his wife, is Prajapati's daughter, and yet she does all the household work herself in a hut. She is doing all the household chores by herself without complaining. I tell young girls, please don't complain to your husband saying, oh, my mother has got 7 cars, you have only 2. If you pray to Mahalakshmi Padmavati, you will have 17 cars, don't worry. You can always multiply wealth by prayer, don't worry, you can always do that. The Bhagavata is saying, Kardama looks at her, poor girl, how much she is toiling, let me give her the choice of life. For young people who are listening, there are a couple of young people who are listening. Don't think Hinduism is all for moksha and going away into the world of. Please remember, India has the best perfume, India has the best music, India has the best culture, India has the best art, India has the best silk, clap for, and the best food. Best food. That means we love this world, but we love that world more. My dear listeners, that's the glory of Hinduism. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Nowhere in the world Artha and Kama are accepted as aspirations. You can't live without money. You can't live without desire. When I used to teach Pride and Prejudice to my students in college, I said it's wrong to marry for money, but foolish to marry without it. You need money. That's why Artha is a part of our aspiration, Purushartha, and Kama is a part of our Purushartha. Of course, Dharma is most important, Moksha is the goal. So, whenever you want anything, I tell children, ask Venkateswara, if you're 20, 25, ask for a career, ask for success, ask for billions. But remember, the billions should not make you go berserk. Remember that wealth should not topple your balance of mind. This is what I want children to ask. Come and ask, and he will give you what you want. The Bhagavata is saying, this woman got a floating castle. Clap. Today you have international airlines with swimming pools and lounges and everything. Those days you had a whole palace that was on wings. And there were fountains, and there were women in waiting, there were flowers and garden. And she was very happy, living a luxurious life. She had daughters, the daughters got married, and then Kardama Rishi says, women, enough. I have to go back to my penance. I was born for penance. This is for you. I wanted you to be happy in the physical sense of the term. I'm going back to my life of renunciation. She said, Swami, I want a son to look after me. And he said, don't you remember Devahuti? That your name itself signifies you are going to call the Lord your son, Devam Hoyati iti Devahuti. What a lovely name. She is going to call the Lord her son. Parabrahma is going to be her son. The Lord is going to be your son. Brahmaji has prophesied it. Esha manavite garbham pravishta kaitavardhanaha avidya samshaya granthim chitvagam vicharishyati ayam siddha ginadhishaha Sankhyacharyai susammitah loke kapila ityakhyam gantate kirtivardhanaha. What are the type of children you want? Who will make your fame and name grow. You should get reports about them. He has become a big doctor, he has become a big engineer, he has become a big scientist, and he has opened hospitals, he has opened orphanages, he is doing free service for several people. That is the type of child we want. Kantate kirti vardhanaha, he who makes your fame grow. And the Lord comes as Kapila Muni. Devahuti is asking him for Upadesha. This the Upadesha. There's the last part of today's lecture. Kindly bear with me. It is a serious topic but worth listening. She is asking him, give me Dharmopadesha. Sometimes our children are so wise, we have to ask them for advice. Several years back, I don't think we could talk to our parents as children talk to us now. Our son says, Mama, you're stupid. Papa, you're silly. And you say, yes, my son, yes. We could use this word a couple of decades back. But today, children are precocious. So we have to listen to them. She listens to her son, asking him, please remove the darkness of my ignorance and light the lamp of wisdom. You are the axe that fells the bond of life. And the Lord is very happy to give her Upadesha. There are 4 points in this Upadesha. First, mother, keep the company of good people. Who Who are good people, Narayana? Who are good people? Those who are patient, those who have conquered anger, those who are selfless, those who don't hate anybody. Titikshavaha, karunikaha, suhrudas sarvadehinam, ajata shatravashanta, sadhavas sadhubhushanaha. Their virtues are their embellishments. The ornaments that they wear are satya, dharma, ahimsa, dana, tapa. Be in the company of such people, those who brought you to Tirumala. All of us need an impetus. Somebody has to goad you, persuade you to come. Keep the company of good people. Second, mother, keep the mind under control with katha. As you're listening to the katha, don't you think the mind is naturally under control? The mind doesn't wander. It doesn't wander. After the arti is over, you must be wondering what is cooking for dinner. That is the second question. But right now, when the mind is listening to the katha, bhakti yogena tivrena viraktyacha nayetvasham mayi bhavena satyena mat katha sravanena cha. When you are listening to the katha, you are totally making your mind come under your control. The Bhagavata says, third one, mother, give dana. How should you give dana? Stand up and give dana. Don't throw the dana into the receiver's hands. Arhaye dana manabhyam maitra abhinnena chakshusha. Why? Because under the receiver's hands are Narayana's hands, my dear listeners. Narayana is taking the dana from you. How blessed you are. Like Mahabali, you are blessed that you are giving the dana to Narayana himself, and do it with great reverence, that you have a capacity to give and there is a person to receive. If nobody was there to receive, how would you be called a dani? The Bhagavata goes on to tell us, like a medical college student listening. Like a medical college student listening. Narayana is telling this lady, mother, the baby is growing in the womb. You'll be surprised how many years back, thousands of years back, before ultrasound was discovered, the growth of the baby in the womb is described. It's arrestingly wonderful when I read this passage, and it has been beautifully translated by Stephen Knapp in his work, Life in the Womb and Birth of the Living Entity. The name of the book is Eastern Answers to the Mysteries of Life. The child is growing in the womb. On the first night, it mixes and there it is born. On the fifth night, the mixture ferments into a bubble. On the 10th night, it develops into a plum and then into a lump of flesh. Then, in the course of a month, the head is formed. At the end of 2 months, the hands, feet, other limbs take shape. By the end of 3 months, nails, fingers, toes, body, hair come into being. Within 4 months from the date of conception, the 7 essential ingredients of the body come into existence. At the end of 5 months, hunger and thirst are felt. That is why in the 5th month, the mother eats more, one for the child, one for herself. In the 6th month, you find the amnion begins to move on to the right side of the abdomen. What detail, my dear listeners. Ultrasound. Ultrasound on a printed page. And when it moves to the right side of the amnion, oh, doctor says the position is perfect. Position is perfect, but the person is not perfect. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Punarapi janani jathare shayanam. Iha samsare bahudustare. Kripaya pare pahi murare. What is happening to this baby? This little baby in the womb of the mother? Deriving its nutrition from the food and drink taken by the mother, the fetus grows and remains in that abominable residence of stools and urine, which is the breeding place of all worms. That is why when the baby is born, even the doctor doesn't touch, the midwife, the nurse touches, washes, gives it to the doctor holds us upside down, gives us one slap, she gives us one slap to make us cry. then we make the world cry. What a way. There's a book called The Unborn Child. This is how life starts. This is how life starts. 5,000 years back, Bhagavata describes the child in the womb. Please clap. 5,000 years back. The scientific facts about the Bhagavata. That time, my dear listeners, if you know anybody who is in the family way, who is pregnant, please send the child to listen to the Bhagavata. It has a big impact on the child. Big impact. I have not told you earlier, have I not? I was in Montreal, and there's a Subramania Swami temple there. As I was entering the temple, a baby was crying. I felt bad because the mother couldn't control the baby. I feel very bad when babies cry. So I said, let me try. The only astra I have is Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. So I went to the baby and said, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Instantly the baby stopped crying and gave me one look. I have not seen you before, but I have heard you before. The look was very familiar and yet unfamiliar. It came into my arms, put its head on my shoulder, and fast asleep in 5 minutes. I asked the mother, what is this bonding? She said, Amma, last year you came for a Bhagavatam to Montreal. One whole week my child in the womb has heard your voice and remembers your voice. One whole week. Recorded memory. Prenatal recorded memory, my dear listeners. This is what happens to the child that is growing in the womb. And I want you to understand what an impact it makes on the child. I request you to pass on this message to as many gynecologists as you can. Doesn't matter, but make them tell the pregnant women to listen to something beautiful, something melodious, something gracious, so that the next generation is not the generation of lust, but the generation of grace. Thank you.
Now